So it's and that's quite different to the other one, because it's a much bigger idea than the nitrogen proposal from Melbourne. This is really is a transformative idea.
Yeah, it is.
The RC in that meeting said you can have a hub up only with 2 partners if that's enough to show it's transformative. But in this case, really to show a transformation, this is going to be as broad and wide as possible. We need to have all stakeholders involved across the loops and all these areas of expertise that are all different and complementary. So this is going to be the case where we really need to have a good breadth of partners, academic and industrial, to be able to sell it.
And I think we're going to have a sensing in the technology side, a sensing an element to detect when something's wrong, given that there's a health aspect to the use.
Fail safe is going to be what we're going to aim for, basically. Fail safe means it just goes into the sewer directly.
Like overflow.
Yeah. So you need a real time that can detect that there's an impairment.
Yeah.
For a fail safe to divert.
This is all part of technology. Actually, it's a good question to throw out there.
Yeah.
In the technology.
It might also be good to, once this is all done, this workshop, we get the next round of feedback. It would be really good if we're talking about closed-loop systems for urban resilience through a circular economy. This is transformative. And exactly what you're saying, Stefano, you need to engage everyone across the system. We actually don't have a map of who they are in what parts of the system. We're really good to develop something so you can see holistically who's involved in what visually, so you can actually understand who's involved in what part, because we're not at that stage yet. And I think that's the comments that came back. It's a bit messy. I don't understand how it goes together. It's actually because we shouldn't have it together at this stage anyway. Who's recording? Is someone recording this?
I am recording.
Oh, okay.
Testing.
Testing.
I give you permission. But I wouldn't mind us getting together and developing a systems diagram to not just map the stakeholders, but what are they contributing to what part of the project. And then, because also Griffith came back and said, I can do chemical pollutants, I can do application to land, I can do fertilizer optimization, blah, 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 blah. Of course they can. There's a number of different partners who can, but you want the experts in that field to do that. So soil scientists or chemical engineers. So,
and there's still a whole list of people we talk to, and they're not here because they're still transitioning into the project, but related to Queensland Health, I'm waiting to get feedback from them. And if Queensland Health comes in, then we have UQ with the experts in measuring micropollutants. So there's a lot of gaps that we are working to fill. So this is just it has to be understood that this is a first step towards defining this a little bit better and making it grow in the right direction.
Yeah, good. And that people identify how they want to be involved, as well as feeding back to the proposal. Like, because EPA is saying, oh, we can give you the resource recovery exemption, but we want to be involved in monitoring. We want to know what's happening along the way. So it's a nice way to go, okay, open it up for engagement, but also what are you going to contribute?
I think it's good for them for the fail-safe aspect and the regulation. I mean that should actually be its own theme, the regulatory and adoption of a national standard of what can be used for decentralized systems.
Let's go and have a look at the slides then, because that's in my slide.
Okay, that's good.
Not the way you said it, but engaging EPA and Department of Health. Yeah.
Can you see the slide?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So Sushana, we changed a little bit of first page slide, so you can start this one, Sushana.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
I can't see the next page down.
Next page is agenda. What's the?
Okay.
I'm just questioning when I just had a quick flick through it, whether we put the actual names of these workshop sessions rather than 1, 2, 5, 7, 3, 4. So maybe just a quick, we could even say overview of technology and nutrient, because that doesn't make much sense to people. Yeah.
It's a little bit long name, so it's okay.
Yeah, I think that should be okay.
Let me try it.
Yeah, I think that the themes, make more sense to have what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While you're
you don't need to put interactive discussion, because I think it is going to be an interactive discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I was thinking was lots of people commented on the economic cost and benefit analysis and the idea of doing potentially a much broader analysis of economics. And someone suggested looking at a performance economy and broader environmental benefits rather than economic benefits to the project. And we're not covering cost and benefits in this workshop. So it might be good just even to suggest we have had feedback on that. And that might be something that we do in the next workshop, or because you can't do everything in 2 hours.
No.
You're right. That's the reason why I tried to reduce some of them. But now we are sure that we will do second discussion for the field trial.
No. We're
You
doing.
want to do first this safety and then fertilizer optimization?
No. Oh, sorry. Yes, field trials. Yeah, field trials and engagement, learning, and communications.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, Sean.
That's all right.
Yeah. So also because people commented on the cost and benefits, it might be good just to flag it up front. We're doing these 3 themes. Obviously, cost and benefits are really important at this stage. We can't fit anything to 2-hour workshop. We'll come back to you with a workshop or something to, some way of engaging with the cost and benefits. What do you think?
I think it's an important thing, because I think you need to have the workshop anyway, because when we write the proposal, we're going to have some investment thing of why we think it's going to transform an economy. So there's certain things we need to do from an R&D perspective in the transformation hub, but there's certain information we need up front when we're pitching the idea to government that they should invest in us, because we can spin out an economy from it.
Yeah. But it just wouldn't work if we did it talked about cost and benefits as well as this. We barely have enough time to discussion. So just to even say next time, or we come back in a smaller group or something. Yeah.
I would even put, this is later on, the overview of the field trials engagement and the commercial translation aspect of how you would do it because that's what you're trying to do through a transformation hub is you engage, you think, but then they want to see that there's a commercial translation pathway to market. And that's where your maybe cost benefit analysis stuff comes into it, as well as in the commercial viability and the translation.
Yeah. We just don't have the time to do it at this workshop.
No, not at this one, but
Okay.
So Shoshana, you will talk about this brief contents of the presentation, and then this is the slide.
Yeah.
So, and then this is the feedback.
Yeah.
And then I will go from this slide.
Okay.
Brent, this is the first time you've seen this. Does that look okay?
Yep.
Oh, we've seen those ones before. Yeah. That's so funny, that picture.
It looks all right.
Yeah.
So you want to go one by one, all the slide?
Well, I think we're not presenting this, so this is more Cyro. But it would be good to make sure Simon knows 10 minutes he has to get this done by.
Yeah, I already reminded him. So if I will just tell him there's 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
So we can tell him.
See, I reckon that's interesting. Yeah.
We'll present this one.
Yeah, and this is what he's presented before, Stefano.
That's exactly. There's just one slide or two different. This one I think it's Will's addition. So yeah, I think he put some time into it to.
Sorry, can we go back for a second step, Sean, rather than flicking through? So you got back to back 20 minutes of presentations. We're not going to take questions in between, but we might take 1 or 2 questions after those 2 presentations. Does that sound okay? Because otherwise you're going straight into another.
I think so.
Yeah.
We have to, we need to manage it though, because maybe a lot of people want to have a lot to say already. So who is emceeing? Is it Shosh?
Yeah, it sounds like Shosh is emceeing, right?
Did you want me to MC now? I wasn't sure if I'm going to MC. That I spoke with Sean, so you want me to do the MCing and introduce everyone then, or
did we discuss that in the last? Yeah, is that okay for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just, can you send me this presentation though, just so I've got it on my own screen? Because I know that Sean's going to be managing the.
I'll send you a link for a Dropbox link.
Okay? Yeah, that's fine. That's all good.
Yeah. But what we could do, because okay, so Anna can't come now. She just sent an email, but there are 2 people from the EPA coming. What we could do is, if there are a lot of questions, especially after those 2 presentations, there is the chat function. So when we start this off, you're going to have to say, look, put all your comments in the or questions in the chat function, because we will respond to those if we can along the way. If we're not, we'll pick them up after the workshop. So that would be a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
Or just take your notes or important points that we should consider in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, put them in the chat.
Yeah, chat function.
And we'll make sure we get to them. Yeah.
If we have any in-depth conversations, you can always contact us after, you know, as well.
Okay, here's a link to the Dropbox.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Okay, yep. So there'll be some questions after those presentations, and then this one you're doing.
Hold on, Sean.
Yeah.
There was some animation in 3 slides up. Did it come through? And one more. It looks like there's no animation.
Can you open it as a full slide? You'll only see the animation in a full slide.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was not, yeah. Okay.
Okay, you need the animation. All right. Okay.
I just, making the graphs move.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And so then you have some prompting questions, Stefano.
I've got, based on the feedback, but also my own.
Yeah.
For themes 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And can we go back, because we've just flicked over the first 2 slides. So Brent, will you be doing the first bit on this fertilizer stuff?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Brent will do that. I'll do the next one around social engagement and regulatory and industry context, institutional context. Yeah. What I wanted to pass by was then, because there's a few questions about, like Henry came back and said, ISF should already know about the preferences for urine diversion, right? But this is very different context if you're talking about residential, commercial versus Crumb and Eco Billy's Your King Lake. They're the main 3. And all the people in the room have all been in those sessions before. So if you mind just flicking back for 1 second, Sean.
This one?
I wanted to ask you, do you, Simon had said he doesn't want a logo, Sydney Science Park, on some of the proposals. Is it okay to put it here, or do you want to not, or you let go?
This is,
You just put a question mark, or even you could put NiCE logo, but I just thought I'd ask you because he did say he didn't want the Sydney Science Park logo on things unless.
Yeah, right. So maybe we can possibly just remove the name and then just write other than logo, and then we can say maybe possible Sydney Science Park.
Yeah, or even possible.
Or I just say Sydney Science Park, because writing should be
Sydney Science Park should be confirmed.
to be confirmed.
Yeah, TBC. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
Okay, all done then. Mine's finished.
Yep. Fertilizer optimization.
And so they were from the comments from the feedback, Stefano, that you had on slide 46.
Sorry, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I changed, yeah, I put those in this morning. So those were the key ones that I distilled out of there.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, so you asked about consistency of the quality and composition. The liquid versus solid came up above, but I thought maybe if it's not discussed before, we can discuss it here.
Yeah.
We are constrained to liquid, but can we turn it into solid? And then assess the effect of fertilizer on soils and soil on fertilizer. That was a good one because the fertilizer might not be ideal as such because of the mobility of the nutrients, but the soil microbiology might partially take care of that. But we have to also check that the fertilizer doesn't harm the soil microbiology. So there may be quite a bit of a component of research there when the fertilizer is applied to soil.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
One thing that, sorry, there are comments that I was asked not to send to a whole group. So that's why I'm telling you as you go as anonymous. So something that came up was someone had said, there are 50 different ways to extract nutrients from wastewater. And it's obviously this person hadn't looked carefully at the system that you're proposing. And they said, there's 50 different ways to do this. What are you suggesting? So just to clarify, when you're going through your slides around the technology, I understand it. We all understand it because you presented a few times. But even just from a prospectus, this person said, yeah, but there's 50 ways to extract nutrients from wastewater or urine or different, whether you precipitate or, whatever.
Yeah, this is the only quantitative nitrogen recovery system.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So just letting you know, because that person's coming to the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can also do stripping and there's other ways, but you either only recover the nitrogen or you don't recover quantitatively. Here we recover quantitatively and we recover also other nutrients. So, and we do that at reduced energy consumption, but I can only speak for you, Gold, on this one, but that's the goal.
Okay, great.
I also included
Opal,
so you can just briefly mention it. Yeah.
So,
Stefano.
Yeah, so very close. You got 3% nitrogen. We got 2.7.
Yeah.
No, but you also have the nitrate. So, yeah.
Okay, so what's theme 3? What's the title of theme 3?
Theme 3 is the fertilizer optimization.
Okay, so you mind putting fertilizer optimization in each of those slides? Because I can't remember. I don't know what you're talking about here.
But, but then in some other cases, it becomes pretty long. So, because
so, and what is this?
Put like this?
Yeah.
But then for theme 1 and 2, where the title is very long, it's going to become too long a title.
No, that is the title. Theme 4 is safety assessment and reuse.
No, but then for the following slides, it should be, I only kept theme 4 and then what I show in the slide.
So you just need to do it in italics when you have the topic, I think. So that there's a distinction, because you're trying to have the introduction into what you're talking about. Is that right, Stefano?
Yeah, so first slide is the introduction, and that's where I have the full title.
Yeah.
And then as I go through the 2 slides, I thought I don't have to repeat the title. I just put in the title space what I'm focusing on that particular slide.
Were you going to say something, Brent?
Nope.
I mean, it's really a minor thing. It's just that for theme 1 and 2, the titles are a bit too long. So the same problem is there for all of them. It's not just theme 3.
Okay.
It's because it's sequential. So you start with the intro slide, and then it's just connecting to that.
Oh yeah, but you didn't have theme 2 and then something different underneath it. You've just maybe.
Well, I here there's no theme 2. Yeah.
Okay, whatever you think is easier.
Okay, so on theme 1 also, it doesn't happen, right? Okay, so we can remove completely. Yeah, also from 3 and 4, we can remove completely.
Yeah, because then you're describing it. Because I forgot what those themes were. Anyway, it does seem like a minor thing, but it was a bit confusing when I looked at it. And
so just remove theme 3 and theme 4 from the title of the slides below. So this one leave, because that's the intro. The next one, remove theme 3 and just leave the second line.
Yeah, okay.
And then this one as well. Just
what we have made so far. So this is the
2 fertilizers we've made in Brisbane and Sydney.
Yeah. So the nutrient content of these, that's pretty much what you're saying, aren't you? The nutrient content of these.
Maybe we can say that University of Melbourne.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
it will be a
or typical nutrient, example of nutrient content.
Yeah.
Because it's a use case, isn't it? So example of use case nutrient content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Brent? Because you're the nutrient guy.
Yeah, I would just say typical nutrient content. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, now we're just making a mess out of the title.
Well, the title before didn't make sense. It doesn't have anything
We
about
have
nutrients
made
in
a
it. It says
nutrient
what we've
so
made
far.
so
No, but
far.
now it's even worse.
Well, then just say typical nutrient content, or you know.
No, but of course somebody's picking over it, so it's not like you know, people are left there reading it and trying to work out what it is.
This is coming from an engineer. I'm a social scientist, so I can't. If you give someone to read, sometimes people aren't even listening to you. They're just looking at the slides. Like if you sit through, I don't know if you've been through those conferences, people aren't actually listening to you. They're looking through the slides, they're reading on the slides. And this is quite, like you've given two, you also have people who are not engineers who are coming. So you're going to explain, you're going to have to explain.
So let's call it the fertilizers we have produced so far.
Okay.
Yeah. You gold example, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice if they'd all been in the same units, but.
All right, same unit, okay. So we can remove this one, UTS.
I think you need a picture then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say.
This is, I mean, we've got 20 minutes till we start.
So
I don't know, do we leave it?
Similar.
Time.
Yeah.
Well, there's some key differences. Ours is only ammonia and yours is...
right, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. And they're two use cases, yeah.
Biologically repeated process. Yeah, you can mention about briefly, it's we have a different technology and then mostly nitrogen-based fertilizer, ammonia nitrate, but for you it's ammonia enhanced fertilizer.
Yeah.
Compared
I think
to
the main point is that you have done the trials on nutrients so far using two different technologies, but what's come out of it has been similar. Is that right? In as far as the what's made up of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's with the one key difference, the form of nitrogen and the pH, but there's similar concentrations with similar, I mean, they're liquid. So basically it's concentrated urine.
Yep.
Pretty much.
So what could we put the title of something like typical nutrients in the fertilizers we produced, or because what we have made typical nutrients so far, like can we Typical nutrients in fertilizers produced or something. Yeah. We produced so far.
And ours is in a high density commercial building, and the U-Gold one is parkland, isn't it?
No, it was a toilet block.
Yeah.
In a parkland though, like in a no.
in a treatment plant.
Oh, in a treatment.
Sean, can the first word be typical?
First word, okay, typical.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
And
no,
ours as acetate, Urval doesn't. So this could be also the basis of discussion. What is more desirable? We have ammonia, ammonium nitrate as the forms of nitrogen. We have one with acetate, one without acetate. One is neutral, one is high pH. There may be different application avenues depending on the formulation of the fertilizer, and then this will also inform back on the technology component to produce what makes the most sense to be used as a fertilizer.
Yeah. I'm sure the ag guys might have something to say about that too.
But I mean, even if you're looking futuristic, if you can make a system that can optimize through the treatment by being digital to optimize, like you have the process being digitally optimized and adapted, you could essentially get designer fertilizers out so you don't have to treat everything to the same level. I mean, that's a futuristic down the track, but I mean, because every plant type or every environment is going to be slightly different. So
yeah, and that's one of the questions that came up when this question of fertilizer optimization was the ag guys saying, oh, actually what you need to do is find the right site to be able to apply this fertilizer to the right plant site. So you need someone who understands plant science to understand how this fertilizer would work in particular context. They're mainly talking in parks and gardens. Horticulture and agriculture was different, and that you need a consistent sort of end product. But they were saying if you chose the right plant species for these fertilizers, that would be a piece of research they'd have to do if you're going to trial it in parks and gardens, for example.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for being so patient, you guys.
So last one, but not
What was the last slide? Sorry, you just clicked through it. I didn't see it. Could you please go back?
When you have a wrap up, so we can.
Sorry, could you go back to the last slides, because I didn't even see the two slides you crossed over.
Is it, which one? This one?
Safety and reuse. Okay. Yep. What's this one? Monitoring.
This is what we have found in our trials in Brisbane. So all those on the x-axis are the pharmaceutical and derivatives that we have found in the urine. This is all with ethics approval. And we have seen that there's substantial removal of 99% plus for most of them in our system. But this is just one warm-up slide to then lead to discussion around the safety, what we need to look at, and how can we monitor it, and where are we not looking at, because we just, so far we looked at the product, but the comment was look at all potential exposure pathways. So
yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. Great. And so Sean, have you done that? Is this only that happened at U-Gold, or you did at Uraval as well?
I think UBAL we haven't done because we didn't have any much micropollutant in our sample. So
but UBAL,
in the future, yeah, we will do.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah. Also, yeah, last one. So we can have wrap up and next step. So wrap up. So Dina can summarize the very key points or highlight from your side. Also, if we have enough time, also I can ask Stefano and Brand and then Shoshana. So if we have enough time, yeah. And then next step will be, we will summarize this slide. Also, we will share our presentation, also all the summary of the refractions from the other partners, right?
Yeah, we could have a synthesis of that. Yeah.
And it's also mentioned that we are waiting for additional partners to potentially come on board, that so they don't think this is it, like in terms of the team, because
All right.
we are still confidentially talking to partners in the technology space as well as in the health space. So the next workshop would have additional.
Space.
Right?
And agriculture space,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. All right. Looks everything's all right.
And I'm still going to do the permission to record at the start as well. Just
Yeah, that's good.
Already we emailed everybody, so there is no objection, right?
okay. Yeah.
No, most people wrote back and said, no, that's fine. Happy for you to record, but to cover yourself, it would be good to just say, just recording. As Dina sent out the email, no one is just to be able to prompt it by saying,
maybe
no,
you can mention.
no.
Shoshana, if you have any problem. Yeah.
I think it's just good to cover us verbally if you're
yeah.
recording it as well. It can't be used against us in a court of law.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. And let's just make sure we've already opened the Jamboard. Yep, all good.
Jamboard is okay. Also, we can encourage people to make a question in the chat room. So from time to time, maybe Dina, Brent, Stefano, Susanna, you can see the question and then you can bring during the discussion session. Yeah. So let them, we can encourage, okay, please leave your question or just put your question on the chat and then we will discuss together later on.
Just mindful of the schedule, because I guess when I run a session, it makes sense that I keep track of time rather than having you, Shoshana or Sean, coming in and say we're short of time. So we said it's 25 total per session.
Yeah.
10 minutes, 20 minutes.
No, that was not enough. Shoshana spotted that.
Yeah, the thing was wrong.
Because you added more, you were going to only have one presentation, but now we had two. So that takes out another 5 minutes from each session, I think.
Yeah. So 25 total. So our presentations capped to 10, but possibly less so that there's more time.
5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to cut to 5.
And you're going to let people know, Shoshana, when we're at time.
Yep. So I'm charging my phone as well. To have the time, I bet, to watch everything.
Yeah. Brent, I just noticed on the Jamboard that I've only got theme 7, but not theme 5 for feedback. So on the Jamboard on slide 2, it's got so I wonder how we do that. Do we do it in the same session? Or maybe I'll just delete this image and just put theme 5 and 7 instead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
I think I've got something. Oh, there we go. Right. White spot.
Rightio. 10 minutes to go.
Yep. Just have a bathroom and then come back. make you a little bit prepared.
Thanks for sharing. You inspired me. I'll do the same.
Okay,
Remember, every flush is dollars, so.
No. I don't flush anymore.
Yeah, either do I.
We need to be role models.
We're going way on your lawn.
Cool. So we'll be back on in 10. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. See you soon.
See you. Bye.
Okay.
Brent, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I just
See me.
Pardon?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They can't see you because I'm doing the Jamboard thing.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, fuck. I don't know where it is. One more try. Come on, Dino. You can do this.
But what's the problem? You can't.
I can't find the image that I screenshot to be able to put on the Jamboard. Engagement. Okay, done.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep. Yeah.
So you had a really big thing last night, didn't you? You two working?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we actually made a lot of progress. So it was good.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, she's still recording.
Yeah, you know, clearly engineers aren't worried about ethical considerations. I mean, we're effectively doing social research here.
Anyway, the recording. So Shoshana's going to listen to this.
Yeah, yeah.
Shoshana, you're the one who'll get in trouble, not us. Oh my God, this morning was like hectic. Anyway, in between, while I was having a meeting with Jason, I was talking to him and sending them emails going, "Where is Will's thing? Where's it?" Jason's going, "Did you hear me?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, I'll do that." He does that.
Oh dear.
So this will be interesting. I think we should log on a bit early because I've had a few people. You know, I tried to log on to 2 meetings, Zoom meetings this morning. Couldn't get my sound recording to work. Couldn't get, no one could see me or hear me in 2 different ones. I'm not sure why. I had to.
Well, I was supposed to do a semi-structured interview with Beck this morning, and I was in the meeting room, but no one else was.
Oh.
She was the host, and I couldn't get in.
And she needs to accept you, admit you.
Yeah, and she hasn't answered emails or telephone calls or anything so far. So I don't know if there's something wrong or what's happened.
Beck who?
Rebecca Cunningham.
Oh no, that's dreadful. Well, let's go into this meeting. Let's go to the next one just in case people pop in.
All right.
I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello? Oh, good. Oh, there's Harry. Hi, Harry.
Hello, Harry. Hello, Harry.
He's still
Can
connected.
you? Okay, I will give you.
Hi, Harry. Oh, maybe he can't hear.
Hello.
Hello,
hi.
Harry. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. So can you see our slide, Harry?
Eh,
Sent here.
Not just a minute. No, I can only see
Brent.
you, but not the slides.
I can't see the slide either
Okay.
yet. Yeah.
Perhaps you have to share the screen somehow.
No, we haven't shared it.
Yeah.
Harry, did you get the slides that I sent you this morning?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. How many people are you expecting?
25?
All right. It's reasonable size.
Yeah. Not too many. That's good.
Yeah. Sometimes when with big number of people, it works better without the camera on.
Yeah, I think it does too. You're right. That might be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Just so we don't all blow each other out of the internet.
Yeah.
Hi, David.
Hello, David.
Oh, he's muted.
Let me fix that. Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Great
Oh,
to see
that's
you.
nice.
No, you got to play with your backgrounds.
Oh, this is the, okay, in front of the Darling Harbour, yeah? Ignition
Yeah.
Center, yeah, ICC.
Oh, great.
Beautiful.
I am. I have a collection of backgrounds depending on where, who
On
I'm
the
talking.
occasion.
So how did you choose this one? You choose this one for the year inversion.
Yeah, so we're working on a recycled water project at the city at the moment. So it was kind of a water background
Good job.
kind of thing. So equally, you know, when I'm representing Amit, you know, I might put him in the background.
I've got a whole host of beach scenes, ocean scenes. There's some rough ones on a really bad day, really smooth ones on good meetings.
Mm-hmm. It's a pity it doesn't use the same repository that our Microsoft Teams use, because that way, you know, it's kind of silly. You have to keep multiple different files. So anyway,
Yeah.
I digress.
Started yet.
Um,
Hi, Elsa.
Ibrahim Salibi.
Hello.
Oh, Ibrahim.
Yes, Ibrahim. Hello, how are you, Ibrahim?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you.
Sorry. Hi, James.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. How are we all?
Good.
Good, James.
So, David, so do
Yeah.
you have what's the progress of the water recycling project in City of Sydney?
Okay, so well, I don't know how much everybody else knows about the project that we're working on right now, but just to give you a quick recap, just to get everybody on the same page, as part of the light rail project, we installed recycled water pipeline from Circular Quay down the light rail route to Central, or just past Central, to the Prince Alfred Park. We also earlier on had put recycled water pipeline into Wynyard Walk from Wynyard Station down to Barangaroo. So our current plan is to go out to market late in the third quarter, so probably September, October kind of time frame, asking for expressions of interest based on the fact that we have these pipelines, we have a certain quantified City of Sydney demand, and we have a number of friends who are interested in coming along with us who are willing to supply their demand as well, and to see what proponents might come and tell us they would do, and then we would go out for a select RFT post that. So just to answer that question, Sean, still on track. We're a little behind schedule, COVID and a few other things, but we plan to go out in the third quarter.
It's great to hear that. A very exciting project.
Yeah, we think so.
Yeah. Hopefully we can collaborate together with urine diversion and then recycling project together.
Indeed.
Yes, that'd be great. Hello, Rebecca. How are you?
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, how you going? So, taking myself off mute, the catch cry of every meeting.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hello.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hello, Cynthia. How are you?
Hi, Lina.
Tamaki.
How are you?
Look at your sunny room.
Yeah, it's nice, eh?
You standing up?
I am. I got this.
Oh, you're exciting.
I got one of these.
Federico coming.
The Stage Kings stand-up desks that you can chuck on top of other things. So it turns out the ergonomics of our dining room table are not so good.
Hi, James.
Hello, Jeff. Hello, Simon. Hello, Federico. Hello,
Yeah.
Jason.
It's funny, isn't it? Hi, everyone.
Hi, Harry.
Jason.
Hi.
Hello. There's Cara. We've got
Ah.
Wednesday.
Hey, Jason.
We just have 2 other people coming. Oh, hi, Cara.
Hey, Dina, how you going?
Good.
Hello,
Look.
everyone.
Hello.
Hey, Cara, nice to see you.
And you. Hey, Cynthia, how are you?
Yeah, really good, mate.
Good.
Okay.
I think we're waiting for Will, probably.
Yes, and 2 more people coming today. Oh, here we go.
So while you're waiting, so if you see the chatting space, so you can see the link, one link. So this is the Dina's initiatives Jamboard. So we can have effective way of the communication using this Jamboard. So can you click this link?
1 moment, Sean.
Yes.
Oh, yep.
Yep, Jamboard. So this is connected through the website. So we can upload your comment so everybody can see each other. Hello, Will. Hello, Sarah.
Yep.
Welcome.
Back.
So that's everyone. Sean, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah. So Sushana, you can start if you are ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Before we begin the workshop, on behalf of those present, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation upon whose ancestral lands our campus now resides. I would also like to pay respect to the elders, both past and present, acknowledging them as the traditional custodians of knowledge for this land. The Nutrients and Circular Economy is a very exciting ARC transformation hub that the research team, as well as some of the stakeholders, have been putting together. The overview of the agenda is to discuss the research hub progress to date. How does an ARC research hub work for those that don't know about the research funding hub? A summary of the workshop that we'll do today, and the overall of this research themes that we've developed, the downstream effects and technologies, field trials and engagement, and fertilizer optimization and safety. And to just, I guess, get your feedback so that we can design the research themes to better support the transformational outcomes that we hope the hub will have, and then go into the next steps. For those that don't know much about why we've positioned it, it's just to get everyone on the same page of why it's a global challenge of national priority. Basically, the fertilizer industry is worth over 155 billion US per year and is growing. We've got 75% of fresh water being used for agricultural purposes, but also the fact that by the UN has estimated that by 2050, we'll have a 9 billion population and will require a 50% increase in agricultural food productivity to be able to service that growing population, and a 15% increase in water withdrawals. So there's a strong need to get new technology that can, I guess, get bioavailable nutrients and also reduce pressure on utilities that produce water. There's also a growing global shortage of urea, nitrogen-based fertilizers, and a shortage of phosphorus estimated in the next 50 to 400 years. And what we've seen from COVID basically is that ensuring Australia has sovereign security is very important. And in the fertilizer industry, a majority of the fertilizer is imported. So therefore, it, I guess, places a national priority on being able to look at a way of producing bionutrients that can be locally produced through a circular economy. We'll go to the next slide, Sean. Yeah. So in regards to the workshop, we really, I guess, want to get out your feedback to look at what the commercial and regulation challenges are for commercial viability, the barriers to industry, farmer and commercial adoption and uptake so we can see the transformation, the design constraints potentially in the technology that we require to have it being used in high-rise buildings, parklands, urban, residential and regional communities, as well as looking at a holistic approach. What are the gaps that we need to transform the sector to make it a new economy of the future? And what are the gaps in the research themes that we need to further strengthen through your feedback? So I'll open it up to Sean and Dina to present an overview of the structure of the ARC Transformation Hub.
Thank you, Shoshana. Hello, everybody. So this is a great pleasure to share our progress of nutrient in a circular economy ARC Research Hub by taking a system wide view of the nutrient cycle from toilet to field. So this project will engage with the most advanced technologies in nutrient management to produce a safe fertilizer for horticulture, agriculture, also parklands. So this project will be a key partnership to transform the wastewater industry and build the confidence for a market in reusing wastewater and urine as a source of fertilizer for agriculture, horticulture, and parkland. So we have progressed so far. The lab scale technology development in 2017 to 20. Also, we have demonstrated pilot scale at UTS, urine storage tanks. Also, now we are planning to have a full scale technology implementation, possibly at the Sydney Science Park and also City Parkland. So we have collaborated with the urban utility, Sydney Water, the Royal Botanical Gardens. Also, we are trying to build more partners in the future. So we have 7 research themes. First one is the downstream effect of source separation. Second one is technology for how to produce the better quality of fertilizer and fertilizer optimization, safety assessment, also field trial and application to land. We look at the detailed cost and our value chain with engagement, learning, and communication. So we try to develop the multidisciplinary research activity with the different stakeholders. So this is our timeline. We are in July, so we have engaged with stakeholders and we submitted the EOI proposal to the Sydney Science Park and CSIRO Urban Living Lab, and we are waiting for the outcome next week. An invitation to participate in this project was identify the strategic value of the project to potential participants. Also, we have organized a workshop since last month. So every month we are planning to have this interesting party-oriented workshop. Also, bidding timeline and terms for participants will be until October. So we are planning to submit 10th of November for our project if everything is going very well. And this project, what's the benefit? So potential for new products and IP and business opportunity, improvement to productivity, R&D opportunities, also partnership, strong relationship with the government, university and industry partners, also implementation of operational circular economy driven by the collaboration of sectors, access to data evidence for improving policy and regulation. So what's the requirement for organization participating in this research hub? So we need a partner investigator and documentation required for the application by October. So if everything is going well and then this project is successful, so we need the official agreement. Also, we need your contribution in terms of cash and in kind. So last month, we had a first workshop. So this is the feedback from Sydney Water Utilities, the Royal Botanical Garden, also Melbourne University, several universities attended. And we shared our discussion. Developing a partnership with a fertilizer company is critical. So we have engaged with some of the fertilizer company. Also engaging operation and maintenance staff across the value chain will ensure long-term viability. So we try to look at the new business model and then new urban utility oriented company or completely new company can be involved with this maintenance and operation for the urine diversion toilet processing and application to land. Also define the relationship between the ARC hub and CSIRO urban living lab. So Simon, he will make a presentation today, so he will also cover more detail. Also identify potential target application for the application of fertilizer to land. Also ensure local distribution of fertilizer from on-site and urban treatment for transport to fertilizer or urine. So based on our modeling, so we found that we treat on-site our urine and then distribute. That's the better and cost economic system. Also engage closely with the environment and public health partners. So we have EPA, also some relevant safety issue for this urine fertilizer. So we can have a discussion today and identify research component. So already we asked your reflection for the 7 research themes. So you gave a very good feedback for the research component. So we will develop this research activity and we can prepare our application. So thank you again for our core partners, Melbourne University, Griffith University, Sydney Water, Urban Utility, the Royal Botanic Garden, Sydney, Western Sydney University. We hope to see more partners to engage this project. Thank you very much.
Thanks. I'd like to introduce Simon Toes from CSIRO to introduce an overview of the Sydney Science Park and the Eurodiversional trials
Oh, I'm going to basically just talk about the Urban Living Lab and what it's about and how the urine trial would fit into that. So, and since Sean is the one who's controlling the clicker, I'm going to just say Sean every time I need the slide changed. And I will acknowledge that I got these slides from Tim Muster, and you'll see why. And you can see that we have a fair team within CSIRO already doing some of this work around the Urban Living Lab. So Sean, if you can go to the next slide. So our journey, CSIRO has been moving towards the Urban Living Labs for a while. We've done some work already with Celestino around Urban Edge, where we interviewed and worked with government agencies and development industry, trying to get really some idea of what were the impediments and drivers to enable better change and innovation in the urban development sector. Because it's very clear, it has been clear for a lot of people for a long time, that our urban development, while we live in a very clean, safe environment compared to a lot of other places in the world, effectively, we could be doing a hell of a lot better than we're doing. So we were tasked with looking at how we could change this. So Sean, if you can just click on. So within these initial bits, we came up with quite a wide range of constraints to why our urban environments aren't doing as well. And right at the top is just risk averse governments and utilities. You could say the same of risk averse or problems with the development industry. There's a whole lot of things around costs, which people are only looking at initial costs, not long-term costs. There's problems with regulations. There's ideas around willingness to pay, silos across organisations. There's a whole risk of constraints are there that we've identified with the different players in the urban environment. Sean, if you can just push on. But of course, there's enablers. And so we can see that, if we can bring local and state government together, if we can use the knowledge in the science and the industries together, and we can develop partnerships. So it's really, if we can bring in these partnerships, and there's some really ways, innovative ways that finance is starting off that we can bring in. We just need to work out ways that we can do it. Interestingly, down the bottom is, while it didn't come out as the highest, really it was agreed that we need to look big. We shouldn't be going small, we should be going big in the projects. So we came up with this part which we worked towards in CSIRO. How can we do this? So Sean, if you can just click on. And we brought all these together, looking at the constraints and the enablers, and we worked out some of these strategic actions. And one of them was just to find out what are those solutions that we can investigate that's going to outcompete the business as usual options. So straight off, if you want to put that in different words, what is it that we can do in the research area? So we're talking researchers here. CSIRO is facilitating this, but this is not CSIRO. This is CSIRO facilitating for the research area to do things better than the business as usual. And what is it that we can bring to the table and research and trial that's going to make a fundamental shift in the way that our urban environments are being operated and developed at the moment? How can we get better participatory platforms into this? We want to start to bring a narrative and a campaign for innovation future areas, not only for the development industry and the government, but also bringing the community along with us. And then bring that all into a supportive ecosystem, definitely looking at a systems approach, a transdisciplinary systems approach, and then work towards establishing an innovation authority, if you like, that has a remit to really work through all these strategic actions to bring in long-term public policy goals. So we not only want to do great science for the sake of science, but we want to make things that are going to make a fundamental difference, not with just the tech, but also getting into the public policy type goals all the way through. We thought that we really had it in with Malcolm Turnbull becoming the Prime Minister, and of course that didn't quite go the way we wanted it to. But interestingly, with some of the discussions that have been going on recently, COVID-19 might actually turn out to be that impetus that we're really looking forward to. Sean. So we have had a number of initiatives that we brought together, but one of the big ones was this whole concept of the Urban Living Lab. And there's a big worldwide movement going on around the Urban Living Labs. You can see on the right there's a number of papers that have been put out by people. They've got to be place-based. They're working in the real world. So it's taking stuff that, like the urine separation, which has been worked at a certain level, and then to really start it tested under real-world conditions. And because we all know that taking it from the lab, inverted commas, to the real world has connotations where there's just things that you might not expect that need to be tested. It involves experimentation and learning with a broad group of participants and users who are involved. It brings into we can actually allows us to bring in a different form of leadership and ownership. So it's not just this typical hierarchical model that we have for a lot of things, but we can actually break those old ways that things are done and actually have a broader ownership and a broader leadership. And it allows us to evaluate the impact, not just as an entity or a technology or an innovation on its own, but evaluate that impact across the whole spectrum of the urban. So we get that huge systems approach, which is really needed, which is something that's not really done very well at the moment. Sean. So we've set up with CSIRO, we've got 3 active urban living lab, well, 2 active and 1 hopefully coming active. And it's interesting, the one that you see there, Ginninderra, which is the old CSIRO agricultural farm in the CS in ACT. was going to be our first living lab, and it's actually gone slower than we expected. And we actually have Sydney Science Park and Darwin. Sydney Science Park being our first operational urban living lab, and Darwin. Darwin, all three have commonalities and all have differences, which is going to allow us to trial things off. Sydney Science Park, Darwin is an existing city which we want to improve its sustainability in a northern tropical environment. Western Sydney has that a broader bit because it's starting from a parkland, open green space and we can do anything we want to. So we've got this portfolio developing, and it may be that we'll have other entities come up in time, something we're working with potentially in Queensland, maybe South Australia, but at the moment we're working with the three. As I said, these are CSIRO urban living labs, but they are places where is open for other people to join and do research at. So we see ourselves as facilitating in these areas. It's not just CSIRO alone. Sean. So Sydney Science Park being our first, this is just a schematic of what they think. It's 440 hectares. It's 3 kilometres from the new Western Sydney Airport, as you can see in the distance there. They expect it's going to be mixed residential, commercial, and light industrial. They really have a vision for it which is different from everywhere else, and innovation and pushing the boundaries is what they want it to be. They're really excited because the railway line, as you can see, goes through it, and it's just been announced that they actually have one of the 3 railway stations between St Mary's and the airport is going to be at Sydney Science Park. Somewhere between 150,000 residents on site and up to maybe another 50,000 people commuting in from hopefully nearby by train and other practices to come in. Sustainability is a major focus for Celestino in this place, along with a number of other things. Sean?
You've got 2 minutes, by the way, Simon.
I'm almost finished.
Okay.
This is what it looks like at the moment. It's a green open paddock, very degraded. It has been used for cattle for goodness knows how many years. So really we can actually do what we like on it. So Sean, and this is just to give you an idea of the scale. They like showing this. It's about the same size as the greater CBD of Sydney that they're going to have. I've already said this. It's got a strong science medical industry intent and a strong STEM education focus. CSR, and yep, it's got the importance of place. I've already described this systems approach. So we're looking at it from a broad systems focus. And Sean hit the last one, I think is the last. Yep. And basically you can see that it has activities which bring outputs, there's feedback loops, outcomes and impacts. So effectively the NiCE ARC idea fits into this whole area extremely well, and so that's why it's been supported and it's gone up as an EOI to be considered by the board next week. And I believe that's my last slide, and I'm fit to time. Yes, and so there are some links that people can go to, and anybody who wants to know, rather than that broad brush, any more details about what we do are more than welcome to contact me at any time. Okay.
Thanks, Simon. I'd like to introduce William Spears from Urban Utilities to talk about nutrients in the circular economy. And I'd like to open it up to all the participants. If you've got any notes or ideas, just to log it in the comments section in the chat function while William speaks. Thanks, William.
Thanks very much. And I'll do the same thing as Simon and Sean. Every time I say your name, I'll get you to push our slides through. If you could go to the, let's change format slightly. Yeah, so I'll talk briefly about what we do at Urban Utilities, and it'll give a bit of context for how we place circular economy principles into what we need to do going forward. Like many water utilities, our original purpose from establishment that still continues to this day is around that public health role, that vital role of providing water, recycled water, and sewage services. And it's kind of the legacy that we're dealing with today is and how some of our circular economy and resource recovery initiatives are today is largely still a legacy of some of the decisions that we've made in the past to fulfill that public health role, which traditionally has meant, we pick up water from somewhere else in the catchment, we pipe it all the way to the city, and then we collect the sewage and we pipe that all the way to somewhere else. So we end up with sort of moving resources, both water, sewage and trade wastes, incredible distances, just to fulfill this public health role. So looking at what sorry, Sean, if you want to jump back to one slide. The other aspect we need to remember is this function that we play in shaping cities. So our sort of a traditional utility approach 50 years ago was really just to be a responder to state government and local government policies on how to cater for a growing population and a growing economy. However, we realized that's got that the way we respond has this massive impact on our prices and our cost of living back to our community, which our community keep telling us is a massive thing that they want us to deal with. So we're finding ourselves needing to better understand our role within the systems that we find ourselves in, both urban planning, waste management, parts of the water cycle, and really start to push and influence beyond our regulatory role and our role where we have authority, which requires a lot more work in partnering with different parties that exist within the system. Sorry, Sean, off to the next one. I'm sure some of you might be familiar with the butterfly diagram of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation that talks the circular economy, and it's to be a very sort of familiar diagram. There's a biological loop, there's a technical loop, and we also have that water loop. Some of our activities at the moment, we're doing a lot within anaerobic digestion, taking food and organic wastes into resources, but we still have this tyranny of distance, because where our facilities are, our sewage treatment plants, which are now resource recovery centers, are still at the end of the pipeline, and we're still moving this water, moving this sewage long distances around. And when we looked more closely at the nutrients within our that's coming within the sewage that we're collecting, realize that a significant part of it, 90 to 99% of the nitrogen that's in it, is coming from only 1% of our flow. So it's that nitrogen in the urine that's contributing to the total nitrogen that we need to manage. And managing that nitrogen is sort of a significant cost driver for the cost of our services and the cost of treatment. So following those circular economic principles of trying to we have those loops, but trying to get those cascading cycles as close to the source as possible, gave us that really good opportunity, or that really good landing point for investigating something like the UGold technology, which I'll get you to move to the next slide, Sean. So UGold was a technology that with my colleague Matt Mullis and Stefano Fregura, who may be on the call, I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's mentioned in other workshops, that they worked at, which is a way to, how can you recover the nitrogen from urine at the source? So it takes from a waterless urinal through source separation and through without going into the science of it, a electrolyzer, which is at a very low energy rate, able to recover that nitrogen out of that urine, or sort of drop that, recover 50% of that nitrogen, and just let the water, the water or the low nitrogen water sort of pass through back into the sewer, which we would treat conventionally. This was a research project that we ran at our innovation center, which hosts around, I think we have about 156 different research projects going at the moment. This was probably one of the largest ones in terms of a practical lab scale demonstration. And it's this big opportunity we have that we're looking for to take this further. To the next slide, Sean, thank you. Commercializing UGold, to take a product from a lab test bench, through an R&D process and into that real commercial product or service, it's got to jump through that that sort of iterative, the valley of death between your technology readiness and your commercial readiness. And this is about where we think UGold sits at the moment. Now, conventionally, we could just sort of keep throwing money at research and just having it go up the technology readiness level, that green chart, and then try and make the jump over to commercial readiness. But sort of following the lead of a lot of sort of technology startups is to try and find those commercial partners that are willing to invest early to try something new. So, willing to step outside of the comfort zone, not necessarily acquire just a straight product or service, but actually to have a hand in the research and development of it too, which helps us develop something that's more valuable and better needed by industry. The next slide, John. Some of the challenges we have going through those steps. So the plumbing code is surprisingly a big barrier in that while waterless urinals are probably relatively common in the industry, source separated toilets, which are more suitable for female bathrooms, aren't technically toilets that we've learned. So there's changes that we need to make to standards and procedures, which means it's another role that we need to play to try and influence those codes, to influence that acceptance. For a lot of businesses, it's to get source separated, to source separate their urine in their buildings and facilities is sort of a duplication of plumbing lines, which can be expensive for existing facilities, but it's huge opportunities when we're working with a potential partner that's still at that design phase, where we might be able to get that source separation in earlier on at lower expense. Cost, balancing up those costs and benefits of the solution is key to all these projects. And for us as a utility, we recognize that there's this massive potential to reduce the nitrogen that's coming to our treatment plants, which means a massive reduction in the cost that we have to continue to meet or to continue to keep our environment safe, which is sort of a win for our customers and a win for our environment. But how we value that benefit is tricky. It depends on sort of both our operational costs, but a bigger component is on our fixed capital costs. And so working out, how much does this extend the lifespan of our existing treatment plants? Does it delay upgrades? Does it help us meet certain regulatory barriers in a more cost-effective way? And how are those things likely to change in the future? So it's a sort of an internal challenge we need to do to sort of value, what value do we place on nitrogen that's removed from a treatment train.
William, 2 minutes to go.
Thanks. Similarly, with our the role that we play in removing nitrogen, which has historically largely been driven by keeping the natural environment, the natural ecosystems healthy, is that if we take this nitrogen out further up the chain and we want to and we're expecting that to get used as a product, we want to make sure that it's going to be used safely and doesn't just return back into the environment or back into the water cycle inappropriately. We don't just want to sort of shortcut our own service to an extent. So needing to find that key third party who wants to that key third party or partner that wants to use that fertilizer and can use it safely. Just the next slide, Sean. I'll skip over this one, but that's the one. And finding that right commercial model to work with partners. So so there's technology costs, there's install costs, there's sort of ongoing research and development costs, and how do we balance all that up amongst parties, and what role does the receiving utility play? And this isn't just something we need to consider for UGold, but something we need to consider for every technology that's coming out that's helping us in the system, address and treat and recover these resources and take pressure off the assets that we have. What value we place on that, and how do we effectively apportion that across parties? So, thanks very much.
Thanks, William. Did anyone have any questions that they wanted to ask William? Everyone's quiet. We might go on to the first theme or two themes of the ARC Transformation Hub, which is around the downstream effects of the source if you change the source and what happens, and the decentralized technologies required for nutrient recovery. And I'll open that to Sean and Stefano to talk about that.
Okay, so thanks, Shoshana. So I'd like to also make sure that everyone has got their Jamboard page open. If you weren't here at the very beginning, so there's a link in the chat that sends you to Jamboard, and at the end of this short presentation, we'll get there so that we can capture everybody's thoughts. So we'll just cover one theme at a time, and we start with this theme one, which is the downstream effects of source separation. So as Shoshana discussed at the very start of this meeting, we're looking at the benefits on agriculture and fertilizer security as the key drivers here, but what are the real enablers to give space to the circular economy? And one of the places where we can unlock most value is the wastewater industry. And Will has just touched on it, showing that there's clear benefits for the wastewater industry when the nitrogen from urine is diverted away from the sewers. So the first goal of this initiative would be to assess the effects of source separation on downstream wastewater infrastructure, sewers and wastewater treatment plants. So what we aim to achieve is a total reduction of total nitrogen and phosphorus. So key is the nitrogen, which is responsible for up to 50% of the electricity requirements of wastewater treatment. So we aim to deliver a new way of dealing with wastewater, which will save up to 50% of electricity and will reduce the scale of centralized treatment system. And this will have benefits of economic nature, which is where then we can enable all those other activities in the value chain to happen. So there's already been some preliminary feedback, and I would like to make you aware of those notes as a starter for later discussions. So people have asked about the life cycle assessment of sewer networks and treatment plants, whether there's any effects on biosolids, then comparing our concept of separating urine with direct reuse of wastewater for soil improvement or irrigation, as well as further resource recovery options. So I'll give you the results of the work we've done so far to hopefully convince you that there's some benefits here, Sean. So this slide contains two graphs. So the left one looks a little bit complicated, but basically this graph is there to show you that if we have a city with a certain number of people and the number of people are going to increase, well, we can either choose to invest in new infrastructure at central level, or we can utilize the existing infrastructure and divert some of the urine away from the sewer network to then be able to still achieve the same effluent quality in wastewater treatment without any significant or major changes to the infrastructure we already have. So if you look at the green curve on the left graph, that shows how the size of treatment systems could go down if we are progressively diverting urine from the sewer. So, and where that dotted line in the middle intersects the blue and the yellow and the red line is the urine diversion requirement, so that we can achieve treatment for a larger population using the infrastructure we already have. So as an example, where the dotted line, the black dotted line intersects the blue line, is corresponding to 7% urine diversion. That means with 7% urine diversion, we could use the existing infrastructure to move from 1 million population to 1.2 million. So accommodating an additional 200,000 people with a 7% diversion of the urine. So that saves quite a bit in investment in centralized infrastructure. If we look at the right, so we're looking at the cost of upgrading a sewage treatment plant under different scenarios. So the brown columns represent the cost of upgrading as a function of the upgrade size, so 0.2, 0.5, and 1 million, when no urine separation is in place. So those are roughly the cost, not the full cost, but the cost proportional to the nitrogen component to it. If we do urine separation, as we said, we don't have to upscale the existing tanks and a lot of the heavy infrastructure, but we still have to upgrade some other equipment such as pumps and blowers, and there's electricity requirements. So this total cost includes capital and operating. You can see it becomes much smaller if urine separation is in place, but is that enough? So Sean, if we look at the example of UGold, because that's what Will just talked about, the technology we developed in collaboration between UQ and urban utilities over the last 5 years. So the yellow bars indicate the total cost, capital plus operating over the time frame of the investment, also including transport of the product over 100 kilometers and the revenues from fertilizer. So this initial one is with fertilizer priced at $1.1 per kilogram of nitrogen. So that's close to the price of bulk fertilizer, large scale agriculture fertilizer. We can still see that the model shows that we are still ahead, and that the fact that we are ahead means that we still have value that we can use to enable all those other elements in the value chain. So basically developers incorporating new plumbing and new toilets in new buildings, agriculture and horticulture industry being incentivized to take up the new fertilizer, and so on. If we aim to enter the market though, Sean, we could aim for example, retail, where you can sell for 20 times the price, and then it becomes clear that there's value there. That shows that basically for every bit of urine that we separate, we can actually make a profit. But that's just for a very small niche market. But that could be a good entry point, and beyond that, it could the price would have to be reduced. Okay, moving on to the next slide, Sean. So we also showed through modeling that urine diversion helps sewers. Sewers are known to be suffering from corrosion, and there's a lot of costs associated with the replacement of concrete. We're showing that the effect is not really major, but it's positive. So the more urine we divert, the less corrosion we have. Okay, so that's just for what I wanted to talk about. So now we can go to the Jamboard and seek some additional feedback from everyone. This is the purpose of this workshop, to allow everyone here to give some opinion. So because of the time constraints, rather than talking over it, why don't we start on the Jamboard? So is everybody on it? So themes 1 and 2, if you have problems, just please let us know through the chat and we can help you get there, but there's simply a link and you can just put sticky notes on it. So I'll just start to put a couple of sticky notes, and then you can just put yours under mine, or as somebody who already did, we can put yours there. But some of the quick questions that have arisen have to do with scale, for example. So what's the scale for satisfactory demonstration?
So could I just ask if everyone's okay using the Jamboard? Is everyone logged into that, and there's any problem with accessing that?
I can't get in. I don't know how.
Okay, have you got the link in the chat, Harry?
The link in the, I'm looking at the slide that is on the screen at the moment.
Okay, so if you go to the chat function, I've just pasted the Jamboard link into that as well. So what you can do is click on the chat.
Yeah.
Yep, and that will open into a a internet web page.
Yeah.
And then on the left-hand side, you can see a sort of a toolbar. And the third tool from the bottom is a sticky note. So you can click on the sticky note and add comments. Is everyone okay with that, that Jamboard? Has everyone used Jamboard before?
I haven't used it before, but I love everyone's little avatars up here.
I know, it's great, isn't
Right.
it? Yeah. And it would be good to have an open discussion at the same time as people adding to the Jamboard. If you have any comments that you have on Stefano's presentation.
Okay, so what's happening here? Some comments are disappearing.
Yeah. I can see
You can see, Harry?
I am able to see somebody writing something, but I don't have a keyboard, right?
So if you go to the left-hand side that says add, yeah.
Yes, you want it?
Yeah, I started writing something, but it disappeared. Maybe the otter stole it.
I think somebody deleted Easy, so we are starting again.
Somebody deleted the whole.
Yeah, somebody delete. So don't delete, please. Just to add your comments.
Can I ask a question while we're sorting out Jamboard to Stefano? When we're talking, you did some LCA or some cost benefit analysis, showed a couple of those charts there. Are you talking liquid or solid urine as a fertilizer? Or I know you mentioned kilograms of nitrogen, but I was just wondering in what form that was, because we know LCA suggests that as soon as we start transporting too much further than 50 or 100 Ks when it's liquid, it starts to become a bit prohibitive in terms of costs and stuff.
Yeah, so we'll get to that in the next theme, but I can anticipate. So far, we've made only liquid fertilizers, and we have costed the transport of the fertilizer based on transporting a liquid. And our technologies concentrate the urine to the point that the concentration of nitrogen is not much different from the one you would have in a solid. It's just that you have to tanker it as opposed to move it like a solid. So, but we have done some costing analysis, and we are keen to look at technologies that would enable the transformation of our fertilizer onto a solid, and then we want to assess whether that's a priority or not as part of this feedback that we are seeking.
Okay.
So, thanks for that.
Thanks, Stefano.
Yeah.
I have a question for Stefano too.
Yeah.
What is the proportion of soluble nitrogen that is in urine with organic nitrogen that it is in the solid material? If you how much
biosolids?
No, the material that goes into the wastewater treatment plant where it's treated, the solids, the fecal matter.
So your feces.
Fecal matter.
Fecal matter has 20%, and 80% is in the urine. So we have a real driver there to harvest the urine up front, and that's really the reason we are looking at urine primarily, because what we're proposing is the only way we can really quantitatively harvest all the nitrogen. If you're looking at biosolids, you're still at best looking at the fraction of maybe 10 to 20%, and that's in biosolid form, which comes with additional problems of contamination. So here
I wasn't thinking of biosolids. I was only thinking of the nitrogen, the organic nitrogen that gets into the wastewater treatment plant, and it has to be removed or is removed during the process. Ignoring the biosolids, just it's the nitrogen, the organic nitrogen in the fecal matter.
Yeah. So,
but you say it's 20%, which is
But as the modeling has shown, it's enough to remove only a fraction, like 5 to 10% of the urine. So you're not looking at targeting the whole population, and you already have benefits to the point that you can go up by 20% in your catchment equivalent population, and still be able to use your infrastructure, your heavy infrastructure, without change. Just you have to upgrade blowers and pumps. So there's some, I think this is where all the economic value is unlocked that enables everything else in the project, because in the past, a lot of efforts have been made to harvest nutrients from wastewater in many forms, but there's always an issue with the costs as opposed to the value that you create with fertilizers. So here we're not just creating value in the fertilizer, but it's value for the whole wastewater industry. And that's why this is an industry transformation project where the wastewater industry, not only the agriculture side, is being transformed.
I have another question, Stefano, on the reduction, on the effect, the positive effect of urine removal on corrosion. How that happens? Nitrogen doesn't contribute much to the corrosion component of the sewer. Where is the small advantage that you mentioned?
So that's a very good question. And what we found is that the urine also is responsible for 70% of the sulfate that the humans excrete. And so if you take that out, then you have less sulfur that runs free in your sewer. And because of less sulfur, you have less opportunity for H2S formation, and from there, sulfuric acid formation on the walls of your sewer. So it's just really related to the concentration of sulfate, total sulfate.
All right. Yeah. Although that's the formation of H2S is limited. I mean, no matter how much sulfur you add, there is a point where the H2S formation will reach a point that doesn't go beyond a certain value. It doesn't matter. I think I've got the chemistry idea.
It is rate limited, but the moment you reduce the driving force, you reduce the rate. So that's why the effects are not major, but they're positive.
All right.
Okay, so
one last question. So one last question on the, so in the technology that produces the fertilizer, is the fertilizer concentrated ammonia, or is another chemical composition of the ammonia? Is it something like struvite or what? How does that work?
Okay, we will get to this with the next this.
All right.
So I'll answer that with the next.
Fine.
Okay, thanks. So you guys can always come back to this Jamboard and add while I talk, but for the sake of time, I will just carry on. So just showing one or two slides on technologies that we already have in place. So Sean, if you could move to the next slide. So the next theme of this initiative is technologies for nutrient recovery and transformation. So we want to deliver fertilizers from urine, and as we do that, we want to do it safely, and we want to create something that we can call a fertilizer and we can transport as a fertilizer. So we want to scale up the technology that Will talked about, and also there's another technology that Sean worked on, and they both deliver liquid fertilizers, as I will show you. Scale up is really the key here, but we're also open to look at other technologies also for the reprocessing of the fertilizer. And the feedback that we already got is how do we regulate the products that we are making? What we can call a successful proof of concept, liquid versus solid fertilizers already come up in the Jamboard. And what's the domain? Looking at public toilets, temporary vents, residential. So let's show you what we have done with technology, just briefly with one slide each, Sean. So this is the UGOL technology. Will talked about it. So there's the same urinals that you have seen in Williams talk. So UGOL is basically nothing but glorified electrodialysis. So it's electrodialysis with microbial boost. So I won't get any deeper because not all of you are technologists, but we've shown that it works quite satisfactorily over a period of 2 years. We had it running in the toilet block, and we're producing a liquid concentrate, which is rich in ammonia. To answer Harry's question, U-Gold is ammonia. However, URVAL, which is Sean's technology, with coming at the next slide, is a little bit different. So it relies on a membrane bioreactor to biologically oxidize the organic matter and the ammonia in the urine to make ammonium nitrate, pretty much, and getting rid of organic matter. And then by another membrane system, membrane distillation, you up concentrate that. So 2 liquid fertilizers derived completely in parallel by 2 research institutions, and they're basically concentrated urine, but one is ammonia-based, one is ammonium nitrate-based, and they've got some other differences that we can discuss later. So this is it. So I want to get to Jamboard again and go on to another page, perhaps, to discuss issues that have come up with technology. So as you've heard, so we can go to page, so page 2 is already occupied. So should we go, it's still overflown to page 2 and then we'll fix it later. But what are the
page 4 regulations? Is available. Page 4.
4?
Yes, 4 is.
So let's meet at page 4 of Jamboard.
Yeah.
So you just use the arrows at the top to scroll. So path to regulation is essential for this to move forward in any form. So we've got comments about the roles of state EPAs and also federal authorities for fertilizer certification. So what is the actual path? That's something where we'd like to get a little bit more feedback. What is a satisfactory proof of concept? We already got some pilot system, TRL 5 and 6. So it's pilot system tested in the field with the real urine. So what scale do we have to aim for with this next project? What do we need to do to monitor and control to keep it safe? And then perhaps I would like some opinions about what's the feeling of having a biological process or a system that is essentially decentralized or distributed. Would there be a preference for trying other technologies that are not reliant on the moods of microorganisms as well? And also nutrient recovery in distributed systems at the individual building is something that has always been resisted because you have to harvest these nutrients from place to place. So shall we also consider some semi-centralized or precinct level systems so that we can harvest and treat at a slightly larger scale? So those are the a few questions that I wanted to pose. So, okay, so I'm just reading as we go. So path to regulation has to include plumbing. So plumbing is one thing, and I think that that's less problematic than regulating the reuse of the fertilizer for food production. So that's something that might.
Stefano, one question again. The 2 TRL6 technologies that you have, they are physical-chemical based technologies. They are not microbiological.
They're both biological. So,
but you have something like electrodialysis you mentioned, and the other one, the Jones one, I didn't get it.
So the first stage is MBR. and the second stage is membrane distillation. So the MBR is biological, and that's how you stabilize the ammonia. And
but the MBR will then convert the urea into ammonia.
The urea is already ammonia by the time it leaves your house.
So where is the MBR? What is the MBR for? If you are diverting a urine-rich stream, which is essentially urea, and then you put it through an MBR, what do you get there?
So it's ammonia to nitrate, and only 50% of the ammonia goes to nitrate, and the rest of the 50% stays as ammonia, and that's because the pH is self-regulated, and so you make ammonium nitrate. So that way, the nitrogen is more stable because the pH is neutral, so the ammonia is less volatile, and also half of it is nitrate, which is not volatile at all. So
the fertilizer that you produce, is it ammonium nitrate in both processes?
No, only in the
chons.
Yes.
In chons.
Yes, U-Gold is concentrated ammonia, so we are dealing with something that is volatile, and then we have to assess what's the market for that. And you know, towards the end of the session, we'll come back to fertilizer, and the question would be, what's the right market for what we have, and what additional changes do we need to make to these fertilizers to make them attractive for additional and broader markets? Because we know that we can't just, you know, put free ammonia.
I know.
Stefano, we're at time, I think, at the moment, so we might have to move to the next session.
We've got quite a few sticky notes that we will ponder upon, and we'll use it to prepare our report from this workshop, and they will inform our path forward. So for the sake of time, we will go back to the themes, and I believe Dina is going to take over for a while.
Yeah, so Dina and Brent will talk about themes 5 and 6, the engagement, learning and communication, and the field trials and land applications. Is that correct?
Thanks, Shoshana. And Sean, Brent's going to present the first slide, but just as a quick overview, we have these 3 different themes we're going to go through. So obviously, Stefano has talked about technology. This one's about field trials and application that Brent will provide your overview with. And then we're going to talk about engagement, learning and communication with the view, and Stefano will go back and look at fertilizer optimization with the view that obviously there's some questions that come up around cost, especially in the comments. And this was something we just couldn't fit into a 2-hour session. So we're going to bring this, definitely put in your questions about cost, but as a in-depth discussion around costs for this system, we're going to have another workshop around that. So I'll hand over to Brent to provide you with some overview around the field trials and application to land.
Thanks, Dina. So there are links from this theme 5, to what's come before, because that's the product that we want to be using, and to the themes that will come later around that Dina's going to talk about in engagement and learning. So it's called field trials and application to land, but the question we're really trying to explore is, how do we best use the nutrients that we produce? And what we want to try to do is explore the value and impact of urine-derived fertilizers on soil health and crop production. So we're looking at applications in real-world contexts in both experimental systems and in demonstrations, in agriculture and in horticulture and in parks and gardens. And we're looking at that pretty broadly. So gardens could well be public spaces, or they could also be home gardens. That's a huge market for fertilizers. Looking primarily in New South Wales and Queensland in city and peri-urban applications. So there's a big push in most states in Australia at the moment around circular economy. There's also a big push around urban greening in Sydney. And so the two things kind of go together because they're supporting urban resilience. So that's where we see this starting to move from the water treatment situation into society and how it fits in with how cities work. We're interested in soil and plant science. So we know that plants grow better with nitrogen. They need nitrogen fertilizers. That's not the question we're asking. What we want to know is how they respond to these novel forms of nutrients. So what we're getting out of urine diversion may be quite different to what we normally see in fertilizers that will be applied in normal practice. Not only that, but what happens to those nutrients when we add them to soil? So they may behave quite differently. How do they move through soil? Are they fixed to soil? How do they leach and run off from those situations? Are there other types of emissions that come from these novel forms of fertilizers? So nitrous oxide, we know, is a greenhouse gas. And for me, I think what's absolutely critical is what's the impact of applying these chemicals, these fertilizers to soil ecology? How do we ensure that we maintain soil health in the areas in and around urban environments? On top of that, we know that different types of plants need different types of fertilizers, different NPK ratios, depending on what you're growing. So how can we identify the species that are best suited to the nutrients that we produce through urine diversion processes in all of those contexts, so parks and gardens, and what forms and combinations of these chemicals can we produce? At the moment, it's in a liquid form, and so fertilizer compatibility is really important. Liquids lend themselves very nicely to very efficient forms of fertilizer delivery through things like fertigation. But we also know that that's quite a limited context. And so maybe there's some third-party processing that can take the liquid forms of these fertilizers and convert them to solid forms. How will they work in real-world applications? Are they in the right formulations? Can we treat them so that they're slow release? How will that work? And what are the practices that perhaps need to change in farmers and horticulturists and in parks and gardens to actually use the nutrients that we're producing in the best possible way? So they're all of the sorts of questions that we're going to be exploring in this theme. But just to sum up, it's basically what we're trying to do is to demonstrate that these fertilizers work in real world applications and that they're safe, that they can be used safely on soil, they protect and contribute to soil health and soil biodiversity. I'll hand over, do you want to go to the Jamboard, Dina, or do you want to discuss theme 7 first? Yeah, we'll do theme 7 first, thanks.
Sorry, can you go back, Sean? Thank you, from the beginning of the slides. Right, so this thing, thank you. So this theme is on engagement, learning, communication. And what I want to do was just provide you an overview, because this could be a whole ARC on its own, as someone commented on their feedback sessions. And what I'm going to provide you with is just a very broad overview of what we need to think about around engagement, learning, communication. Essentially, we want to know, gain some insights into the preferences and perceptions and acceptance of source separation from toilet to field. So you're talking about everything from collection, transport, application to land, changes in everyday practices, as Brent alluded to, in applying those fertilizers to land. But how are you going to use, how are the users going to use the toilet when it hasn't been, there aren't plumbing regulations about putting them in. There aren't lots of trials in Australia in urine diversion systems. And while some of the feedback from the feedback session, the reflections that we sent out was, well, doesn't ISF already know about public perceptions around urine diversion? What I'd like to share with you is a couple of the 3 largest urine diversion trials in Australia and give you a better understanding of why we need to do this work, specifically this project. So Sean? So we're really lucky to have people from Griffith University here, Cara Beale and her team, and they put in, this is King Lake West. So actually Cynthia Mitchell and I and other colleagues at ISF helped Yarra Valley Water put in some urine diversion systems at King Lake in Victoria. This was only 38 households. This was in a community, peri-urban community that were not particularly sympathetic to urine diversion systems. The technology was paid for. We did some social research around how acceptable that was, the technology put in to each household, but then they applied to land. There wasn't actually soil science done or plant science done. So there's a gap in that research as far as one of the largest urine diversion trials in Australia. So the next one was obviously our colleagues at Griffith University, who put in their trial at Currumbin Eco Village. This was about 20 urine diversion systems. I think Cara did some amazing work on the social and cultural issues around UD systems, and she may have some comments on that. But this is still about 20 households. They didn't go to the stage of applying that urine to land and to grow crops in adjacent land. And the final project that Cynthia Mitchell and I were involved in, Sean, was at Sydney, where we put in a urine diversion trial and multi-story building at UTS. And we understood, we put a lot of effort into understanding how staff, students and visitors on site, we're talking about 35,000 students, for example, although it was in one floor in a building, multi-story building, and in the basement of another car park. That was a very specific community that was engaged with this urine diversion trial. Were very specific practices, and it's not in their house as it was in the Eco Village or King Lake. And they had the option of actually using that toilet or using a conventional toilet. So if we're talking about putting in urine diversion potentially as a demonstration site in the Sydney Science Park or in Queensland trials, it's a very different context. You're talking about, as Simon mentioned, 150,000 residents and 50,000 commercial, staff coming in, being transient a population. That's a very different social engagement with that technology. So what we were looking at is really, in this theme of research, is obviously looking at the social engagement and learning about the technological system. So, the design and operation and logistics of not just putting the pipework and the toilets, but actually collection and transport to farmers. So obviously you're talking about stakeholders then from the property development sector, plumbers and developers and building contractors, operation and maintenance staff, as well as the toilet users themselves. So users of those toilets. And then the agricultural side, if you're talking about the sociocultural system, obviously you're talking about the toilet users, but also the agricultural end users. So how do farmers, horticulturalists, parks and garden staff, as well as fertilizer producers respond or perceive the value of this end product. So essentially we want to try and identify what are the beliefs and practices and norms of this range of stakeholders involved in a whole system, right from the technology, the social side, as well as the regulatory and institutional context. So I'm really glad that we have some people here from the EPA, New South Wales EPA, who deal with application of wastewater to land and licensing those approaches, be able to give resource recovery exemptions, for example. And in that sense, engagement, learning, communication is not just about engaging end users, but actually engaging in the regulatory context and institutional context in putting these systems in. As I think William was saying, some of the problems is the plumbing regulations are really quite significant. They might seem like a small thing, as someone said in passing, but actually there aren't plumbing regulations to put in urine diversion pipework, and it's really important. So engaging public and environmental health, local government, we have someone here from the City of Sydney as well. And as far as communication, being really transparent about what works and what doesn't, how we need to change things, developing standards and guidelines, and lessons learnt along the way, which some of these projects that I mentioned earlier have done really well as far as publicly disseminating this knowledge. So what I'd really like to do, because we didn't get to introduce each other, and to be able to see who's in the room, you'll actually see we have a whole system of people in the room that cross all these components. We have, so I might just, if you don't mind turning off the share slide screen, Sean, I'm going to ask you very, very briefly, because we have a very short amount of time, to introduce yourself and where you're from and your interest in the urine diversion. It has to be, I'm going to give you 3 words to say why you're interested in this, because that will give you some understanding of who's here. And also to mention upfront that you might look at these three scenes and think that this is a massive sort of proposal, but actually we're all here to co-design this together. So it will be scaled down depending on your feedback on these themes that we're discussing. So I might start with you, Brent.
Sorry, that was a little unexpected, Dina. Brent Jacobs. My background's in agricultural science and natural resource management, and my interest in this project is in trying to maintain and retain a viable agricultural food production industry in the Sydney Basin to contribute to the resilience of Sydney.
Right. And Rebecca Wells?
Hi, University of Melbourne Melling Regional Innovation Centre. So I'm based in Mildura, so a horticultural area. So just keen to hear a bit more from the horticultural point of view, and then I guess potential of how that may fit into water corporations and regions.
Fantastic. Federico?
Hi, so my name is Federico. I recently finished my PhD at UTS, and I work for City Water Technologies consulting firm, and I also helped to develop the Euroval technology together with Professor Sean. So I'm really excited to see this technology really picking up and the opportunity to scale it up. I'm looking forward to work with you all.
Thanks, Federico. Cara?
Sorry, yes, Cara Bill from Griffith University. I'm interested in, well, technology can get us to the toilet, but how do we get the humans to use the toilet, basically?
Yes, good idea. Okay, fantastic. Jason Dwyer?
Yep, Jason Dwyer, Urban Utilities, in working in R&D and have been working with YouGold for a number of years. I think my objective is just to understand the gaps. How do we make it happen? How do we get the technologies we now have to work and offer value for our community?
Great. Aisling? Carol? Hi,
Aisling Carroll here from the New South Wales Environment Protection Authority. I suppose I'm hoping to contribute to the design of this in order to achieve regulatory approval.
Great. So you'd have some great comments on this as well, I'm hoping. Fantastic. Sherab?
Yes, my name is Sherab Punsa, and I'm senior lecturer at the UTS. I work together with Sean, and I'm working on the micropollutants removal from urine.
Right. And David Anderson?
Okay, I'm from the City of Sydney. I'm working on a recycled water pipeline around the CBD and increasing recycled water use. So we're interested in this from a number of different reasons. One, whether there are some complementary overlaps between the two projects, but also the City of Sydney is very committed to a sustainable future. So anything that we can do that helps progress that, we're interested in supporting.
Thank you. Cynthia? Mitchell?
Thank you. As like Brent said, a little bit unexpected. It's like, bingo. Hi, I'm Cynthia. I've been passionate about funny dunnies, as we call them, for about a decade or so, and with Dina did that project at UTS. My long-term goal with this stuff is about how do we get the incentives in the right place across the whole system in order to be able to make it okay to use these funny dunnies, for people to use these funny dunnies, right through to what Brent's talking about in terms of looking after soil health. Because if cities are going to continue to be a good place for us to live in decades and centuries to come, we have to stop the scale of the suck that we have. We have to move towards net positive systems. And I think urine, because there's a hell of a lot of people in cities, is a fantastic way to think differently about what a circular economy really means in cities. I'll shut up now.
Fantastic. Jason Reynolds?
Hello, I'm Jason Reynolds, Western Sydney University, and I'm looking at soil and water interactions, and we're about to undertake another project at Sydney Science Park as well, looking at recycled water applications.
Oh, cool.
So
yeah,
so we have a great interest.
Great. Jeff Powell?
Hey, I work at the same place as Jason, interested in plants and soils and micro, but around food production, but also other types of land management.
Right. Jonathan?
Good afternoon, everyone. I wear several hats. First of all, I'm lead the Agriculture and Business Services Unit at Greater Sydney Local Land Services. We have a demonstration farm at Western Sydney University at Richmond. So I come from the sort of the end user's point of it. I've also had a long involvement with the use of recycled water in horticulture. I'm a director in Protected Cropping Australia and involved with the Western City Aerotropolis Authority as an industry advisor. So I'm very much involved in and interested to see production of food within the cities, and that's my interest.
Great. Oz, Sahin?
Good afternoon, everyone. Griffith University. I'm affiliated with Griffith Climate Change Response Program, States Research Institute, School of Engineering and Built Environment. I lead systems modeling group within the university. Quite a broad range of area I've been working, but my main area, climate change, adaptation and risk assessment, but I work from health to built environment, from water to energy sector. So mainly sustainability, reuse, recover, waste management type of issues. And I do a model, simply.
Right. Thank you. Saeed?
Hey everyone, I'm also based here at Griffith University. I'm an environmental economist in the business school. I work quite a lot on water economics, non-market valuation, social preferences studies, and also on cost-benefit analysis and economic analysis, basically. A little bit of behavioral economics, especially if we go down that route, and then incentives and incentive structures. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I hope you can come to the next workshop when we look more at economics. Ibrahim?
Hi, this is Ibrahim from the Botanic Garden, Sydney. Yeah, we're interested. We are end users, so we'll be using the fertilizer, and we're interested in the results of the raw material, and then if we can improve the fertilizer to be used on different kind of plant species.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Hi, Simon. You've presented your research, but happy to give you,
My 3 words, yes.
Yes.
I had my finger poised over the mute button, so I was ready for you to come through. So Simon Tozer from CSIRO, as you saw, apart from being the manager of the Sydney Science Park Urban Living Lab, and I think this whole concept of NiCE fits just perfectly within what Sydney Science Park is all about. And hearing everybody else talk, everything that everybody said just fits so much within it. I have worked for many years on water recycling and water in urban environments, and so I have a huge interest in how water moves through the urban environment, and this just fits with all what I've done for many years.
Oh, fantastic. Ingrid?
I'm Ingrid Errington. I work with Aisling at the New South Wales APA in resource recovery. I guess, hopefully we can be more of the facilitation side of the regulator than a barrier. Certainly these kind of very well considered innovations are something that we're interested in.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Zijing?
Sorry?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks. Zijing? Jing? Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you. You have to unmute yourself. You're still muted.
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Still muted. And one final, and is it, I've only got your short name, Conas?
Tina?
Yeah, sorry, it's Peter Conash. So
thank you, Sean.
That's okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, Peter Conash. I'm employed by Local Land Services and manage the demonstration farm, which is located on campus at Western Sydney University. So my interest is obviously giving industry and growers an alternative to fertiliser sources, and if it happens to come from the waste stream, then I'm all for it.
Right. And one last, Eugene.
Jean, yes.
Jean, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Jean, Chief Scientist from Orange Water. We have done some collaboration work with Professor Sean before. So Orange Water we actually provide membrane material and also membrane technology. So we are interested in the project, just would like to work together with other university and institutions to develop the new technology for nitrogen and phosphorus removal and recovery. I think that will be very important things we will need to do for the wastewater treatment and reuse.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just ask Harry for the last comment, and our other team has already spoken.
Hello, Harry. This is Harry Bustamante from Sydney Water. I work in the research and development team, and the main interest for Sydney Water is two main interests. One is impact and benefits for the operation, and the second one is livability because of the production of new fertilizers. And you stress the point on benefits because for this project, it's me who will have to write the internal memo to get endorsement from the operators. And the first question they will ask me, what are the benefits for Sydney Water? So that's why I was very interested in what Stefano was saying at the beginning on impact on operational cost of the removal of the ammonia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I realise this is different to what we expected. We were going to do a jam board, but even this is what engagement, learning and communication is about. We actually need to know who's in the room. So I'd really like you to, and sorry Brent, I just did it on the fly, but it just means when we do the next session, Stefano's going to do the next session, it'd be great to get your feedback on Brent and I's presentation remotely, and happy for you to email those questions. But I think it's really important to know who's in the room. So next time when we meet together, we won't have to go through this introduction, but at least we know each other now. So thanks very much. So I'm going to hand over to Stefano, and apologies I can't take your comments in the Jamboard this time.
Thanks, Dina. I think that was really a fantastic idea you had at the last minute. And also, as Dina said, you now know the drill. So you can go between Zoom and Jamboard, and you can feel free to put in your sticky notes in Jamboard on the engagement side of things. There's a page allocated for it. And you can also listen to my couple of slides. And also at the same time, you can put in sticky notes on these themes 3 and 4 that I'm going to talk about now. It's going to be much quicker than themes 1 and 2. So I'm confident we'll have a little bit more time for discussion at the end. So theme 3 is fertilizer optimization. We've already talked about this fertilizer. We make liquids, but we want to make more than just whatever comes out of our technologies. We want to produce tailored fertilizers so that they can be used for target crops in agri, horticulture, and as well as urban greenings, hydroponics, whatever it is suitable for. We want to benchmark it against commercial fertilizers, and we want to optimize it. So some of the questions that have already come in is around consistency, again, liquid versus solid, and the effect of fertilizer on the soil and vice versa. That's quite a good one. We don't only have nitrogen in there, it's NPK, what are these ratios, how we can modify them for to target what we need to target. And then again, the theme of safety has come back, and regulation. So let's just show you the next slide. Some people have asked me, what's the potential of urine to cover the fertilizer needs? And we can say the fertilizer needs are huge. And even if we took the whole of the urine that Australia makes, at best, we will just cover a fraction of the fertilizer needs of Australia. And that's all the food we eat produces nitrogen in our urine. So it's just a linear transformation. However, there's a lot of losses in the process. So we have to address other losses, and that's done outside of this scope. So, however, if we look at liquid fertilizers, there's already a pretty decent market. The Australian market, I found, is already worth about $500 million. So that's quite a bit. And liquid fertilizers, so even if we just stuck to liquid fertilizers, we could think about, as Brent said, mixing them with irrigation water, easy supply, and chemicals, if needed, can be already added to the mix. and there's already a market ready for it. So if we were to, say, divert urine from 10,000 people equivalent during these trials, which is possible, then we would potentially cover a market value up to 200K a year. That's still really small, but it's a starting point. If we went to a 1 million, which is the size of a treatment plant catchment, a large treatment plant catchment, we could have a value unlocked of 20 million a year at using the hypothesis of $5 per kilogram nitrogen. So they're still small numbers compared to the amount of fertilizer Australia uses. And that's partly because there's losses in the process, and also because Australia produces more food than for its own consumption. So there's plenty of opportunity for growth, even if we just stick to liquid fertilizers. So the next slide is the typical fertilizers that we have produced so far, with the UGOLD technology on the left and Urval technology on the right. So they're liquid. The nitrogen concentration is between 3 and 6% of the total. That's quite concentrated for liquid. And the two are quite similar, except, as I mentioned before, UGOLD is ammonia, so the pH is high, 8.7. Urval is ammonium nitrate, pH 7. Urval is pretty much free of organic matter. UGOLD contains up to 2% of acetate as the key organic compound, because that's present in the urine, and UGOLD captures it, Urval destroys it. So, okay, so that's it. So I am just going to finish off the slides first, and you can go to Jamboard whenever you want if you've got comment, but let's keep going. Let's keep going on and just talk about safety assessment, because this is really strongly related. So theme 4 is about, as we discussed, assessing the safety, and that's the safety of the fertilizer itself, the safety of the process, and the safety of separating urine at individual buildings. So that's a huge undertake to ensure the safety when the implementation is really so capillary and it just penetrates the whole city at such fine level. So we're going to look at chemical and biological hazards and how we can manage them across the whole circular economy, and looking especially at not having any of these pollutants transferred to any agriculture product that we want to make with it. Some of the feedback already coming in includes, when I look at drugs and medical contaminants, but also pathogens, look at all exposure pathways. So what's the perceived versus real risk, and who's responsible if something goes wrong. So opportunities for enhancing safety during fertilizer production, and this perhaps we can already address soon. The next slide is basically the outcome of the work we've done in Brisbane with UGOLD. So during these trials, we also periodically measured micropollutants. We did this with QuIES at UQ, and we've looked at pretty much at everything that we could find in there. And we did this with ethics approval, of course, but we could find a lot of stuff, all legal stuff, of course, and we reported all of this. But so you can see On the x-axis is all the chemicals we looked at. So there's also paracetamol, nicotine, caffeine, and so on, and also antibiotics and other pharmaceuticals. But the majority of them, if you look at the removal, which is these gray bars, is really in the 99% zone with our process, which relies on membranes for the separation. Only a few, they managed to come through a bit, but this was just the starting point. So let's now go back to Jamboard and put our comments on. And some of the thoughts that you might want to put into this is in terms of the fertilizer, we got these liquids in there. What is attractive and what is not? And is this suitable for agriculture, or are we more looking at horticulture, or we're better off keeping it within the city boundaries for urban greenings and protected crops such as hydroponics? And also, what's the best form of nitrogen we would like, depending on the type of reuse? And what's the role of organics? Does it help at all? Or should we transform these products that we already have into something that is more attractive for the reuse? In terms of the safety aspect, I wanted to really get more feedback, as much feedback as possible, because this will be critical. What have we forgotten to look at that we still have time to include to make sure that we meet those regulatory approval? In fact, while people are putting their sticky notes on it, I wonder if while we have people from the New South Wales EPA here, if you would like to share a couple of thoughts, because from the point of view of the team developing this proposal, we still need to get more clarity in terms of what are the key elements and the key pathways in terms of being able to enable this whole concept. So would any of you two have some recommendations?
Hello there. This is Aisling Carroll. I'm a senior project officer for the EPA, and myself and Ingrid are on the resource recovery innovation team. So we administer the resource recovery framework in New South Wales, and this framework permits waste-derived materials, whether they're liquids or solids, to be applied to land, and to be exempt, I suppose, from the usual requirements that surround waste and how it's reused. So yes, I suppose a lot of our business as usual work would be in the assessment of waste-derived materials that would be applied to land. I think one of the, as you kind of mentioned previously, one of the major considerations would be definitely the land use. So in regards to matching the I suppose the benefit, but also the risks associated with the material to the proper land use. I suppose one of our concerns would be around things like persistence of chemicals or the bioaccumulation, especially where bioaccumulation is used in, or bioaccumulation could potentially be an issue in regards to agricultural land, in regards to kind of emerging contaminants, I suppose. Some of the principles, overarching principles of our framework would be that the material, you need to demonstrate that the material has a benefit in its proposed use. And of course, obviously, all the work that you're doing here sounds like that you would be able to demonstrate the evidence and back that to support that claim. Obviously, beneficial frameworks in New South Wales, or beneficial framework in New South Wales, specifically would look at that there was no adverse impact to the environment. And when I suppose we look at the environment, that would include, I know that you mentioned previously soil health and soil toxicity. Obviously, we would also look at other exposure pathways in regards to the use of that material. So I suppose things like runoff into water bodies would definitely be a concern for us. More, I suppose, other things, I suppose, where if there are potential contaminants in the material, if that goes up through the food chain, how that may affect both human health and also animals and other kind of, I suppose, what would you call them?
Ecological effects.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Ingrid. And so, yes, I suppose that they would be some of the major concerns. Obviously, I've talked a little bit there about emerging contaminants, but also more mundane things like, I suppose, you know, the salt content could, and how that could potentially adversely impact the soil health as well, especially in the context of there are other organic and non-organic soil amendments that can also contribute soil content to soils, and so yeah, that would need to be considered in a cumulative manner.
I guess also, sort of just to add to that, I think Aisling covered most of it, but I guess by and large, within the definitions of the act that we administer, the urine would be considered a waste, so therefore it would need resource recovery order and exemption. We're very happy to chat with you before you submit an application for that. We have some guidance on the kinds of things we consider as well. So I think I saw Aisling had added our team mailbox, our email address on a previous Jamboard page. So definitely happy to chat further. I guess the more information you can provide us, the easier it is. So for us to assess. So our team is about 50% PhDs. Where we have a lot of specialist knowledge, but none of us are a specialist in urine. So I guess your initial studies around pharmaceuticals and that sort of thing certainly look promising, or that I'm very glad that you've already started down that track. But in terms of milligrams per litre and that sort of thing, I don't have a sense of whether that's appropriate. So if you've already undertaken a risk assessment process of what the limiting, I guess, application rates might be, or how these compounds are degraded or that sort of thing, then we don't need to seek external advice, or we will still seek advice to confirm that your conclusions are correct. But then we're just confirming things rather than conducting our own risk assessment and that sort of thing.
That's great. I wonder, can I ask a question, Stefano, of we have people here from Local Land Services and Western Sydney University who are experts in soil and plant science. It'd be great to get Jeff and Jason's feedback on not just the safety assessment and fertilizer optimization, but also the field trials and application to land. If you had any front thoughts about those.
When looking at the comparison between the two products, like you can kind of get an idea of what the different nutrient levels were in it, but I couldn't tell from the second product, Urval, what the salinity levels were in it, whether that might be problematic.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
I think they're both pretty saline, and that's going to be one key element to consider. It's basically concentrated urine, because we don't have a way to selectively capture nutrients and reject salt. So the salt comes in with the nutrients. So that's a limitation that we need to work with. So we have to either further transform the nutrients into something else, or work with the salinity of urine. Effectively, it's going to be the same as urine, except that, I mean, it would be diluted. If you apply it together with water, it would be a dilution factor there, but if you put it as such, there's clearly going to be too much salt.
Yeah.
There might be some uses where that's less of an issue. So things around, there might be particular plants where that's less of an issue because they grow quite well under those conditions. So maybe you know, it might not work for capsicums, but it might work for something else.
Yeah, great.
I suppose there is also a worry, I suppose, when you're thinking of long-term soil health, and, you know, whether maybe the crop for a certain season might be applicable to that. But I suppose the EPA may look at a more longer-term perspective on that. But I think, yeah, there may be a way of mitigating those risks.
Right.
When you have an EPA.
And so, Aisling, because this is across borders, you would say that in Queensland there would be a similar path to regulatory approval with the exceptions possible as well in other states, because
yeah, as I mentioned, I suppose I'm not an expert either in the Queensland regulatory sphere, but I am aware that they have end of waste codes. So they have one for biosolids, which is a regulatory approval for the beneficial reuse of biosolids. So I would imagine they would have something similar, or would require something similar for a urine-based fertilizer.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
This is a question for Stefano or John. I'm familiar with fertilizers, but what would be the advantage of these fertilizers compared with what is commercially available? How would the fertilizer manufacturer get interested in these products?
That's I think that's a very good question, and I think that the answer would be the economic gains that the utility experiences are to be shared across the value chain. So,
all right.
So if the economic benefit is just kept by the utilities, you know, the water bills are going to get cheaper, but then we might get stuck with this product that we cannot push into the market.
Yes.
Instead, if we can use some of that gain to make it very cheap or extremely cheap, then there will be additional incentive. And the same goes, I saw another question earlier about how we're going to incentivize developers. And that has to come through a similar path, because otherwise there's no way that developers would ever be interested in spending more money if they're not going to get more back. And so that's why I said at the start, this whole value chain is enabled by the value that we create through the transformation in the wastewater industry, where the separation of urine unlocks a lot of value, and then we'll have to think about what's the smart way to distribute this across the value chain so that the process keeps going.
Cynthia, did you have a comment?
I did. Thanks, Dina. I wonder if people can.
I've got one of those too.
Yeah. So I had a couple of questions about this. This is comes from Switzerland. It's a process that's already been well, scaled up, I guess you say. Commercialized might be a little bit strong, but certainly scaled up, and you can buy this in the shops in Switzerland. And I can tell you that it works as well on my veggies on the roof garden as does sea salt. So the price of this stuff is about the same as sea salt. So that's where one of the market opportunities is. But I had so two quick questions. One was just about how does the salinity in the products we're talking about now compared to this kind of thing. So that's a kind of technical question, and it's that whole feasibility thing. So this is the issue. But I just wanted to respond now to the comment you were making, Stefano, about what kind of business models are part of this story. And I really think that we need to be quite open when we're thinking about where it's going to be possible to get people to see incentives for themselves. So we've worked with different kinds of developers. Some, you're right, are not interested in paying more. Some are interested in investing more. And I think Celestino are a beautiful example of that in what they're doing out at the science park. So I think it's really important to keep open and to really have as one of our streams, and I gather that we'll talk more about economics next time, the whole idea of what are the range of business models. It's about 15 years now since I first came up with this idea of eBay, you know, and back in those days, eBay was really, really new. But the idea of eBay is that actually we own the nutrients, and there's a really interesting set of questions that flow about who has access to that value as it moves along the chain. And I think starting with the idea that the utilities ought to be, I just think putting limits around what's the nature of the connection between what the utilities do and what others in the value chain do is a little bit premature. So part of what we need to do is to be looking at all sorts of different kinds of service provider models and business models and value transfer opportunities in order to be able to get this stuff happening on a broader scale.
That's fantastic comment, and I'm glad to hear the optimism there. and I really hope that this is going to happen without having to really rely on those big values being unlocked in one place, because that really constrains it, and that would be good. So of course we have this theme that really plans to address this, so we will really need to work beyond that, beyond just the utilities. However, I still believe that the main value unlocked is in the wastewater industry, and the rest is about goodwill, really. Going back to the Swiss fertilizer, it's about the same stuff that Sean makes in Sydney with a different process. So similar salinity. It's already approved for food, so that's a very good precedent to look at. But I'm very well aware of how they make it. I've been there twice as well. It unfortunately cannot be economically viable at a very large scale. So you can sell for retail, but if you're trying to shave down the costs, then you won't make it for broad acreage. So that's what we want to go beyond, and so be better than the Airwalk guys.
I guess one thing to add on the kind of incentives front, I guess perhaps on a slightly different note, and it certainly is a blunt instrument, but I guess the purpose of having a waste levy is to, I guess, create incentives for people to develop better things to do with their waste. And I guess at this stage in the game, we do have a resource recovery order and exemption for biosolids, which I guess is the status quo of where urine would end up, and that the better quality your biosolids are, the fewer restrictions there are on how you can use it. So I guess if you have a value, not quite a value added product, maybe it is, I guess, in a way, but that if you've got a better quality product, then perhaps you could, I mean, the economics will bear out, but then perhaps that does create incentives to go down that path.
Yeah, that would be great and very useful to consider. So thanks everyone for the fantastic comments and discussions triggered. I think that I'm going to hand it back to whoever is going to do the wrap up.
John?
So, thank you everybody. So it was a fantastic discussion to improve our NiCE project. For the next workshop, this is just the beginning of our workshop. So we have 3 more workshops we are trying to organize. So thank you for your strong participation. So we can have a wrap up. Dina, you have any highlights from this workshop?
Yes, just seeing how many, 5, 10, 15, 25 people
Yes.
in the room together is quite a significant achievement. Yes, thumbs up. Thanks, Cynthia. But in the comments, people have asked a couple of questions. So to share our who are in the room together. So I might send a link that's got everyone's names on it, so you know who's coming to these meetings to start with. And also a summary of our reflections. So we might actually, because you provided some amazing feedback in the reflection, pre-workshop reflection. So we might synthesize that, summarize it and send it out. It'll be anonymous, so no one will know who has said what. It might be also good to be able to share our PowerPoints, because we went through these quite quickly, and you might actually have more comments on that once you get a chance to look at this in a little bit more detail. And then it would be good to, and the next workshop, which I think Sean is organising in just over a month's time, we'll talk more about the economics, and we just couldn't fit it into a 2-hour workshop. There's a few things that came out of the reflections that would be good to just bring up, and I think I mentioned briefly in my previous comments that this is a co-design process. So we're going to actually make sure that your comments are incorporated into the final proposal for the ARC, and then discuss how would you like to be involved as a partner, you know, contributions, whether that's in-kind or cash contributions or universities. And as we know, this is a quite constrained time with universities. So they're the sort of things we'll be talking about in follow-up workshops, but it will be great for you to also, if you have any thoughts after you leave, to be able to email us with that extra feedback. Because I know some people who are here had some really great comments in the reflection sheet, but didn't actually get to share them in the workshop setting, and it's difficult with the 25 people. Yeah, I think it was really valuable. And also to mention, there's some people who couldn't make it today, but who are providing some in-kind to the project. So Horticulture Innovation Australia couldn't make this workshop, but they're contributing. And as Sean said, we're still actually engaging partners in the project as well. So I think they're the most exciting things so far. But the idea that we should be slowly trying to synthesize this into a workable system that we can put into a proposal, and you would be involved in helping us do that, is a nice way of thinking about your engagement over the next few workshops. Thank you.
Thanks, Dina. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dina. And just, yeah, we still want to have more discussion individually. So this is not enough time. Yeah. So if you have any industry partners, also if you just want to have a discussion with myself, Dina, also Brian, IS people, also Stefano. So we will organize individual meeting between your organization and then our team. So very happy to continue our discussion. In the meantime, until we have another workshop, so we will share every information as Dina mentioned. So we need more partners. So next time we are planning to target on fertilizer company, who is one of the end users. So please keep engaging with us, and then improve our concept of this urine fertilizer. So looking forward to working together, and then thank you for your attention.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Sean, I'll be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, Dina and then Stefano.
Hey.
So yes, okay. So we can have just a brief discussion of follow-up. So we have to organize this. Who made this combined participant reflection? Is it from Dina?
I made that.
Oh, you made it, Stefan. Okay, so it was already very well organized.
We quickly saved that before, because if we lose that, we've lost everything. So
exactly. So we can save every PDF file. Also,
at the start, when somebody deleted it, we realized so easy to lose.
So we can stop the recording. So this is our personal discussion. So we will stop it here.